What's up, everyone? Started a minute early, whatever. We're gonna hop in today. We're gonna talk about this is part 4 of our series of unending parts. The last 3 videos that we did, we talked about protein, fats, and carbs, and today is putting all that together. So if you missed any of those, you can go back onto our Facebook page and scroll through and find them. If not, you can go to our YouTube page, Grapevine CrossFit, check it out there to kind of catch up. If you have a question live, go ahead and post it. If not, feel free to reach out to me after you watch this to Brandon@GrapevineCrossFit.com, and I'd love to help you out with any questions you may have of what I cover. It's going to be fairly quick because every person is kind of different. What I'm going to talk about today is just kind of a baseline or a guideline to work with, putting all of the macronutrients together so that you can have kind of a starting point. Again, if you ever have any questions on this, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to get kind of in-depth and personal with you specifically. So starting out, so we talked about protein, how that's kind of the king of the macronutrients. That should be your kind of base of every meal, your guaranteed piece of every meal. Along with vegetables, I think they kind of go hand in hand. I would like to see you have definitely protein as opposed to just vegetables. There's benefits to either or, but if you're a meat eater, focus on a good hunk of protein, follow that up with a good chunk of vegetables. So we also discussed protein, eating servings that are the size of your palm in both thickness and width. So for ladies, I like to see that in the kind of 3 to 5 meals a day range. So that means 3 to 5 servings of that size, however you want to break that apart. Guys, I like the 4 to 6 range of protein servings. Again, however you want to break it, 3 meals of 2 servings each, 6 meals of 1 serving each, however. Follow that up with a fist, camera's up there, a fist of vegetables for ladies, guys, fists of vegetables, okay? So now we have in our meal, we're gonna have protein, your serving of protein, and your 1 to 2 servings of vegetables, okay? Fists. The vegetables, I would try to get a good assortment, lots of greens, and kind of mix in some colorful vegetables. Now keep in mind, the green vegetables are gonna have a lot less energy overall, a lot less calories than say your colorful vegetables, which will probably count more towards your actual carb count, the colorful vegetables that is, than the green vegetables. So I like a lot of green matter when we're talking about veggies because it takes a lot of energy to digest them. They don't really count towards your overall calories, and you get a good dose of fiber with them. For your carbs, kind of that remaining spot on the plate, depending on your goals, your current body structure, whether you are someone who puts on weight very easily, someone who doesn't put on weight very easily, someone who has weight to lose, this will definitely vary. So if you look at your plate, you've done your protein, your vegetables, and you're gonna have a little piece left over, okay? Generally, that's gonna be reserved for your carbohydrates. I like to use the fist variant again, or even the cupped hand for a little bit more control because you can, sorry about the camera, guys, I keep messing up here. You can fit a lot less in a cupped hand than it does look like a fist. I mean, it's very similar, right? Kind of, but keep that in mind. So for ladies, this is generally gonna be 3 to like 7 or 8 servings, depending on your leanness, your overall activity level a day. Guys, this is about the same. It's gonna be 3 to 4 to like 8 servings a day of carbohydrates, depending on your leanness, depending on your goals, depending on your size. a good starting point is just have a little bit of carbs at each meal, maybe one serving. If you find that you're having some energy lulls when you're working out, maybe it's time to add some. If you find that you're not really losing weight, you might need to add some, and you might need to pull some back. This one is kind of the biggest variable. So your guarantees, protein, vegetables. Your variable, for the most part, is carbs. Your other variable is going to be fat, although we do a little bit better with just a kind of a continuous amount of fat, like each day versus a varying degree of carbohydrate. So using your thumb on this one is a good idea. A thumb size of fat, ladies, this is going to be like 3 to 5 for you. Guys, this is going to be like 4 to 6, maybe even upwards of 8, again, depending on your overall goals. A good starting point, let's just throw 1 thumb of fat per meal, which would be like a tablespoon of olive oil or half of an avocado. The oils tend to get a little sticky because they're a lot more calorically dense per serving than like an avocado, nuts, things like that. So like a small handful of nuts, 1/4 to a half an avocado, 1/2 to a full tablespoon of oil. So now we have a nice rounded, I don't know why that just popped up, a nice rounded meal. Okay, so we have our proteins, good dose of vegetables, a little bit of carbohydrate, and a little bit of fat. It all boils down into kind of a 30-30-40, 30-30, like 20-30-50 range of breakdown. So the protein is always going to be between like 30 to 50% of your overall meal. That's getting a little down into that. So just know that the biggest kind of variation for each individual is always going to be the carb or the fat. And then everything else constant. If you're always getting protein and vegetables, that's a great start. If you're scared of carbs, let's talk about it and let's figure out what we can do to incorporate them more into your diet. Because if you recall the last video, these are highly important, especially for those of us that do CrossFit and high intensity exercise, to get us through that. And that could be the missing piece of the puzzle for you if you're having trouble losing weight, putting on weight, keeping on weight. I know that's a big problem too. It's just not enough carbohydrate in our meals. And it's really interesting to see what happens to the body, both hormonally and physically, when we start adding in more carbohydrate to meals, especially with females. It's really cool. So ladies, again, if you have any questions on this and you want to talk about it further, let's do it. Let's find some time to discuss for you what your best path of action is on that. So kind of a pretty quick one today. Just to recap one more time, I know I've said it maybe enough or too much. Protein, palm, vegetables, this, carbs, either this or this, and fats, here, 1 thumb. Ladies, 3 to 5 servings a day. Guys, 4 to 6 servings a day. Adjust carbohydrates as needed, adjust fats as needed. You're gonna have to play around with it. Don't give it 2 days and be like, well, nothing's happening. This is like, play with this for like 2 weeks, write down what happens, and then make your adjustments. It takes time for things to work. So if you don't see any results with anything in 3 to 5 days, take some time. Mary asks, with PCOS or any hormonal issue, do you find you have to specifically play with carbs or maybe even types of carbs? Yeah, so there's some studies, research done with PCOS and lower carb diets that have been very beneficial. The paleo diet specifically has been shown to completely, like, almost reverse PCOS in its nature, and that's generally due to a lower carb. Although I think if you're getting enough calories overall, you don't necessarily need to play around with the carb content. And the types of carbs, I know from experience of working with a couple of females on this that since PCOS is an autoimmune type disease, messing with the gluten stuff and trying to minimize your overall gluten intake and things with certain lectins in them could be very beneficial for you, especially long term. If you're able to go to like roll with something like that for, you know, ever, you would probably see a big reversal in that. You know, no guarantees there, but I do know that from what we've played around with, that minimizing gluten specifically has really helped with that. Getting good amounts of fats in too to kind of help with hormonal stuff really helps too. I can post a couple of links to some of that stuff in relation to that. I know there's a big gluten-free following on PCOS, and I'll post that link into the comments if you're interested in seeing that. So good question. And that kind of goes along with a lot of autoimmune stuff. Carbs, namely refined sugars and glutens and things like that, are the problematic stuff on the carb side. It's not necessarily the carb itself. It's more so what's in the carb than anything. So, question. So we've kind of put it all together, and you've tried it for 2 to 3 weeks, and you're like, well, I'm not losing any weight, time to make an adjustment. I would argue that adjusting your calories down is not the right direction to go. So because you're not losing weight and you're trying this, doesn't necessarily mean you're eating too much. Sometimes, especially if you're eating whole foods, you're eating too little, and it's time to ramp it up. And to dive in a little bit deeper on that thought, a lot of us come from what we consider like a yo-yo diet type culture, nutrition, whatever you want to call it, where we go through periods like a weekend of eating shitty, and then we pay for that on Monday through Friday or Thursday of trying to eat better. And you have this constant swing of high calories to low calories to high calories to low calories, when in reality you need periods of time that are more consistent over time. So we need periods of higher calories longer than 3 days. Let's say like it's 4 to 8 weeks. Then we need periods of lower calories consistently. And then we need to come back up, slowly working up. So there's definitely kind of a science behind that. And it's really how you feel and play with. And the more that you properly fuel yourself, especially if you're doing exercise, the effects that follow that are generally better than trying to get the effects by eating, if that makes sense. So I'm working harder in the gym, and the effect of working harder in the gym because I'm fueling myself properly is I'm starting to lose weight. Instead of, hey, I need to lose 10 pounds, so I'm going to cut my calories and work my ass off at the gym, which doesn't work. And if it does, it only works for so long. So it's definitely something you have to play around with. Again, to wrap up, I want to help you with that. If you need some help, need some guidance, reach out to me, Brandon at grapevinecrossfit.com. You can reach out via the website, whatever, messenger, and I would love to talk to you more about it. So I'll post that link. Thanks, Mary, for the question. I don't see any other questions up here. And I hope everybody has a happy Tuesday. Next week, we're going to talk about micronutrition, all the other stuff, all the benefits of getting nutrients into your diet and what you could be missing on that side. So until then, have a happy Tuesday. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.